On a cold and lonely night, a starving widow opens her purse. Inside, only a wrinkled $5 bill. At that very moment, a metallic roar pierces the silence. A weary biker stops in front of her farm. What she does next will change her life forever. If you want to discover this incredible story, stay until the end and don't forget to subscribe. The camera drifts slowly across a farm forgotten by time. The old barn creaks with every gust of wind, its boards trembling like tired bones that refuse to give in. Above it, a roof scarred by years of rain and burning sun hangs on as if defying collapse out of sheer stubbornness. The windows no longer shine with life, only dust, cracks, and memories sealed in silence. And out of that silence, she appears. A woman who carries a word heavier than any chain. Widow. Her face, marked by the years, hides no vanity, only invisible scars carved by loss. Her eyes, weary yet unbroken, hold stories no one has cared to hear. Every wrinkle etched across her skin is a testament, a line of resistance written by time itself. Her hands tremble as she lights a candle against the darkness. There is no electricity here, no laughter, no warmth. Only an empty kitchen, a table set for one, endless nights where hunger and cold pull up a chair beside her. And yet, she does not curse her fate. Because deep inside her chest, something fragile still beats. A hope so small, yet so defiant, whispering that kindness still belongs in this ruthless world. That spark, buried beneath her sorrow, is the only thing that keeps her standing. A spark waiting to ignite a fire powerful enough to shake the very earth beneath her feet. The storm loomed on the horizon like a monster ready to devour the night, and the lightning that tore across the sky lit up the old farm with fleeting flashes, as if nature itself wanted to announce that something extraordinary was about to happen. In the midst of that silence, heavy with tension, a metallic roar began to rise in the distance, faint at first like a murmur, then stronger and stronger, until it became a thunderous growl that made the ground shake beneath the widow's feet. It was the unmistakable sound of a Harley advancing slowly down the dirt road until it stopped at her gate. Out of the shadows emerged the figure of a solitary man, covered in dust and fatigue, with a worn-out leather jacket that told 1,000 stories of endless highways and boots hardened by mud and weather. His face, marked by the harshness of a nomadic life, seemed to hide secrets that would never be revealed, and his eyes, hidden in the gloom, stared with the coolness of someone long accustomed to trusting no one but himself. He cut the engine, and the entire world seemed to hold its breath. The biker stepped off the motorcycle and, with a hoarse voice barely audible, asked for a little water. The widow watched him in silence, knowing she had almost nothing to give. Her entire life was an inventory of shortages and privations, and yet, inside her pocket, she kept the only thing she had left, a wrinkled $5 bill, the last remnant of security in a world determined to strip her of everything. With a strange calm, perhaps born of resignation, or of that blind faith in kindness that still survived in her, she extended her hand and placed the bill into the palm of the stranger, whispering with a trembling yet steady voice, "It's all I have, but maybe you need it more than I do." The man stood motionless, surprised by a gesture impossible to comprehend, for he knew well what it meant to give the last of oneself when nothing remains. His fingers slowly closed around the bill, and for an eternal moment his eyes locked with hers in a silence that spoke louder than 1,000 words. Then, without saying a word, he mounted his bike again, started the engine, and vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a metallic echo that blended with the thunder of the storm, while the woman remained alone in the shadows, unaware that this act of selflessness was about to unleash a fate far greater than herself. The next morning dawned with a strange silence. A silence so dense it seemed to foretell that something was about to happen. The sun barely pierced through the dark storm clouds that still refused to leave, and the widow, lost in her routine of scarcity, thought it would be a day like all the others, empty, lonely, and marked by poverty. But then the ground began to tremble, first with a faint vibration, as if the earth itself struggled to breathe, then with a metallic murmur that grew until it became a deafening roar, shaking the broken glass of the windows and rattling every rotting board of the old farmhouse. She stepped out the door with her heart pounding, and what she saw on the horizon stole the breath from her chest. It wasn't the storm that was coming. It was something far greater. An endless line of motorcycles stretched forward like an army awakening with the dawn. First dozens, then hundreds, and within minutes thousands of engines roared in unison, as if the earth itself had chosen to roar with them. The man to whom she had given her last $5 bill had not remained silent. He had spoken, and his voice had ignited the response of an entire brotherhood. Those bikers, clad in black jackets with patches gleaming under the sun, advanced not as a threat, but as an unstoppable force of loyalty and respect. The farm was surrounded by an ocean of steel and leather, and where anyone else might have seen intimidation, the widow realized in that instant that they were there for her. The engines fell silent, and the scene transformed into a solemn ritual. Some began unloading sacks of food, others brought tools, planks of wood and nails, while others gave money and even livestock so that the farm might breathe life once again. Men hardened by the road, weathered by years of battles and losses, worked shoulder to shoulder to rebuild what time had destroyed. The old farm, which only hours before had been a symbol of abandonment, began to be reborn before her astonished eyes, as if every hammer strike, every nail, and every sack unloaded were an act of gratitude transformed into a miracle. Within hours, what had been ruin became hope. The brotherhood of bikers, summoned by a single act of kindness, had answered with a roar that would never be forgotten. The narration becomes solemn, almost like a whisper brushing against the viewer's memory, reminding them that great changes do not always come from grand gestures, but from the humblest of acts. A simple $5 bill, given by a woman who had nothing else, was enough to awaken the loyalty of an army of hearts hardened by the road. The brotherhood of bikers never forgets true gestures, for life on the highway teaches them to value the little, to respect the authentic, and to protect what still preserves purity in a world scarred by cruelty. They do not forgive betrayal, but they never abandon those who show nobility. Where injustice reigns and the forgotten seem condemned to solitude, they appear as a wall of steel and dignity. That morning, the widow learned that her kindness, though it seemed insignificant, had ignited an eternal roar. And she understood that even in the deepest misery, generosity has the power to summon unity, to turn weakness into strength, and to write stories that can never be erased from the soul. She gave away her last bill, and in return received an army of engines. Remember this: kindness is never lost. It always finds its way back. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that shake the soul.